The sweetest melodies can sometimes carry the most painful memories. For some, music is a refuge. For others, it's a haunting reminder of what they've lost. But for tech billionaire Nathan Sterling, one unexpected piano performance would become the key that unlocked a mystery he never knew existed and changed his life forever. Before we jump back in, tell us where you're tuning in from, and if this story touches you, make sure you're subscribed, because tomorrow I've saved something extra special for you. The autumn rain drummed against the windshield of Nathan Sterling's Bentley as his driver navigated the winding roads of Laurel Heights Cemetery. Through the tinted windows, ancient oak trees swayed in the October wind, their amber leaves cascading across the well-maintained grounds. Nathan adjusted his tailored charcoal suit and checked his watch, a ritual of control that had defined his existence for the past 5 years. "We're here, sir," his driver announced, pulling alongside a stone path that led deeper into the cemetery. "Wait here, James, I won't be long." His voice carried the clipped precision of a man accustomed to every second of his day being meticulously accounted for. At 42, Nathan Sterling had transformed his software security startup into Sentinel Technologies, a cybersecurity empire. Valued at over $18 billion, the financial press called him brilliant, his competitors called him ruthless, his executive team called him demanding but fair. Few people knew the man behind the carefully constructed public image, the man who made this same pilgrimage every year on this particular date. Nathan stepped out into the rain, unfurling his black umbrella with practiced efficiency. The sound of rainfall muffled the world around him as he walked the familiar path, gravel crunching beneath his Italian leather shoes. He moved with purpose, the way he did everything in life, a trait that had both built his fortune and cost him dearly. In other ways, the white marble headstone stood in stark contrast to the surrounding autumn colors. Nathan stopped before it, his expression softening almost imperceptibly as he read the inscription he knew by heart. Alison Marie Sterling, 1984-2019. Beloved wife, musician, and dreamer. Music gives a soul to the universe, wings to the mind, flight to the imagination. Nathan placed a single white gardenia, her favorite flower, against the cool marble. The fragrant blossom looked impossibly delicate against the stone, much like Alison had seemed in those final days before cancer claimed her. 5 years, he murmured, his voice barely audible above the rain. The company expanded into Europe last quarter. You would have laughed at how much French I butchered in the Paris meetings. He paused, swallowing hard. The Alison Sterling Music Foundation awarded scholarships to 23 students this year, kids who couldn't afford lessons otherwise. These one-sided conversations had become his ritual. In the high-pressure world of tech and venture capital, Nathan Sterling showed no weakness. Here, alone with his memories, he allowed himself the luxury of vulnerability for exactly 30 minutes each year. A soft, unexpected sound sliced through the rainfall, a sound so hauntingly familiar that Nathan's breath caught in his throat. Piano notes, delicate and precise, the opening bars of Debussy's Clair de Lune, Alison's favorite piece. For a disorienting moment, Nathan wondered if grief had finally fractured his sanity. The melody continued, coming from somewhere deeper in the cemetery. His feet moved before his mind could process what was happening, drawn to the music like a man in a trance. Following the sound, Nathan rounded a small mausoleum and stopped abruptly. 100 yards away stood a small stone chapel used for services during inclement weather. Its stained glass windows glowed softly from within, and through the open door flowed the unmistakable notes of Debussy. Nathan approached slowly, the umbrella tilting in his distraction, allowing rain to soak his shoulder. As he reached the chapel entrance, He paused at the threshold, momentarily frozen by what he saw inside. Two young boys, perhaps 9 or 10 years old, sat side by side at an old upright piano near the altar. They were identical twins, with wavy dark hair and serious expressions, their small hands moving over the keys in perfect synchronization. They wore matching navy blue coats that had seen better days, and their sneakers dangled above the floor, not quite reaching the pedals. The scene was surreal enough to hold Nathan spellbound. Claire de Lune had been Alison's signature piece, the one she played when happy, when thoughtful, when troubled, the one she had played the night they met at a university fundraiser 12 years ago, the one she had tried to teach him, laughing at his clumsiness, the one she had played weekly on their home piano just days before entering hospice, and now, on the anniversary of her death, here were two children playing it with surprising skill in an empty chapel. "Boys, that's enough practice for today." A woman's voice broke the spell. She emerged from a side room carrying sheet music. "We need to get back before the rain gets worse." Nathan's umbrella clattered to the stone floor. The woman turned sharply. At the sound, her eyes widening as she registered his presence. She was perhaps in her late 30s, with dark hair pulled back in a practical ponytail and watchful eyes that immediately assessed him as a potential threat. But Nathan barely noticed these details. He was staring at her face, a face that struck him with uncomfortable familiarity. The shape of her eyes, the curve of her cheekbones, the small crease between her brows when she frowned. She looked remarkably like Rebecca Foster. Rebecca had been Alison's research partner during her doctoral studies at Westridge University. They had worked together for years on music therapy applications for trauma patients before Rebecca abruptly disappeared 12 years ago, months before Nathan and Alison's wedding. Alison had been devastated, had hired private investigators, had checked hospitals and police reports. Rebecca had simply vanished without explanation. "I'm sorry to intrude," Nathan found his voice, scrambling to recover his composure. "I was visiting a grave nearby and heard the music." The woman's wariness didn't diminish. "The chapel is open to the public," she said carefully. "The boys practice here sometimes when Mrs. Winters, the caretaker, allows it." She turned to the twins. "Mason, Ethan, time to go." The boys reluctantly rose from the piano bench in perfect unison, their movements mirroring each other in that uncanny way unique to identical twins. As they turned, Nathan noticed something that sent a jolt through his system: their eyes. A distinctive blue-green with a small fleck of amber in the left iris. Alison's eyes. "Do I know you?" Nathan asked, his businessman's composure deserting him completely. The woman placed herself subtly between Nathan and the boys. "I don't believe so, Mr. Sterling," he supplied automatically. "Nathan Sterling." He didn't miss the flicker of recognition. No, not just recognition. Alarm. It crossed her face before she controlled her expression. Rachel Donovan," she replied after a beat too long. "And these are my sons, Mason and Ethan." The boys studied Nathan with identical calculating expressions that seemed too assessing for children their age. One of them, Nathan couldn't tell which, stepped forward slightly. "You were putting flowers on the stone lady's grave," he said. "The one with the music quote." Nathan felt as though the floor were tilting beneath him. "Yes," he managed. "My wife, Alison." The boy nodded solemnly. "We know that song because Mom has the sheet music. It says Alison on top in handwriting." Rachel Donovan's face paled. "Ethan, that's enough. We need to go." She gathered their backpacks with shaking hands. "Wait," Nathan said too sharply. He modulated his tone with effort. "Please, that piece meant a lot to my wife. I'd like to talk with you about how the boys learned it." Rachel hesitated, visibly calculating risks and options. The other boy, Mason presumably, tugged at her sleeve and whispered something Nathan couldn't hear. After a moment, she nodded almost imperceptibly. I manage the Westridge Community Music Program, she finally said, extracting a business card from her bag. You can reach me there if you'd like to discuss music education. Nathan accepted the card, noting the Westridge connection, the same university where Allison and Rebecca had studied. When his fingers brushed against Rachel's, she withdrew her hand as if burned. Thank you for the beautiful playing, Nathan said to the boys, crouching slightly to meet their eyes, those hauntingly familiar eyes. You're very talented. They offered twin half smiles that didn't quite reach their eyes. There was curiosity there and something else Nathan couldn't identify. Mom taught us, said one of them. Mason, he thought. She says music is mathematician's emotion. Emotions are a mathematician's music, Rachel corrected gently, with the tone of someone repeating, a familiar exchange. Nathan felt the air leave his lungs. It was a phrase Allison had coined during her research, one she'd repeated often when explaining why a mathematician like herself had pursued music therapy as her field of study. As Rachel ushered the boys toward the door, Nathan stood rooted, in place, his mind racing to process the cascade of coincidences. The timing, the music, the Westridge connection, the familiar features, Allison's phrase, and those eyes, those unmistakable eyes that he'd thought he'd never see again. Rachel Donovan was hiding something, and whatever it was, Nathan was now certain it connected directly to Allison, and to these boys who played his dead wife's favorite piece with such precision on the anniversary of her death. The chapel door closed behind them, leaving Nathan alone with the fading notes of Clair de Lune still hanging in the air and a certainty forming in his mind. His carefully ordered life was about to be upended completely. He looked down at the business card in his hand. Rachel Donovan, Assistant Director, Westridge Community Music Program. Beneath the surface of this ordinary business card lay answers to questions he hadn't even formulated yet. After 5 years of methodically rebuilding his life around the void Allison had left, Nathan felt something unfamiliar stirring within him. Hope, and with it, an unshakable determination to discover exactly who Rachel Donovan really was, and why her sons had Allison's eyes. Preparing and narrating this story took us a lot of time, so if you are enjoying it, subscribe to our channel. It means a lot to us. Now back to the story. Nathan barely remembered the drive back to his penthouse in the financial district. His mind replayed the scene in the chapel on an endless loop. The twins at the piano, their eyes so hauntingly familiar, the woman who called herself Rachel Donovan, but whose features echoed Rebecca Foster's. By the time his private elevator ascended to the top floor of Sterling Tower, Nathan had already set things in motion. A single text message to his head of security, former FBI agent Vanessa Reyes, contained only 3 words: "Need background check." The business card details followed. His penthouse occupied the entire top floor of the building that housed Sentinel Technologies headquarters, a glass and steel monument to his success. Floor-to-ceiling windows offered panoramic views of the city skyline, but Nathan barely noticed the darkening storm clouds as he paced across Italian marble floors, phone pressed to his ear. "Find me everything on Rachel Donovan, Assistant Director. At the Westridge Community Music Program, I need residential history, education background, financial status, family connections, and I need it yesterday." "Any particular reason we're investigating a music teacher?" Vanessa's voice was carefully neutral. "She has twin boys, approximately 9 years old. I need birth certificates, medical records, school information." A pause on the line. "Mr. Sterling, some of what you're asking crosses into questionable legal territory without proper authorization. I'm well aware." Nathan ran a hand through his rain-dampened hair. "Use the foundation channels for anything that requires official access. Say we're vetting her for a potential grant, if necessary." Another pause. "Does this have something to do with Mrs. Sterling?" The question hung in the air. Nathan had hired Vanessa 2 years after Allison's death. She knew only the public version of his loss, not the complex history that preceded it. "Possibly," he admitted. "Those boys were playing Allison's favorite piece on her anniversary. It's just run the check, Vanessa." Discreetly, after ending the call, Nathan moved to his home office. The west wall featured a floor-to-ceiling digital display that activated as he approached. "Show me Rebecca Foster files," he commanded. The system accessed his secured personal archive, and documents filled the screen. The investigation he'd funded 5 years ago after Allison's death. Her grief over Rebecca's disappearance had never fully resolved, and Nathan had privately reopened the search, hoping to provide closure for Allison before cancer took her. He'd found nothing. Rebecca Foster, brilliant music therapist and Allison's research partner, had vanished 12 years ago at age 27. Her apartment had been cleared out methodically. No credit card activity, no social media, no cell phone use. After her disappearance, the private investigators had concluded she'd left voluntarily and gone to extraordinary lengths to disappear completely. Nathan studied her photograph, the same high cheekbones as Rachel Donovan, the same analytical gaze, but Rebecca's hair had been a distinctive auburn, not the dark brown Rachel wore, and Rebecca had no family ties that might have produced those twins with their remarkable eyes. A soft chime interrupted his thoughts. The elevator. Few people had direct access to his penthouse. "Daniel," Nathan acknowledged, as his younger brother stepped into the apartment, shaking rain from his umbrella. At 38, Daniel Sterling served as Sentinel Technologies' Chief Innovation Officer, the creative counterbalance to Nathan's strategic leadership. "You disappeared after the Anderson meeting," Daniel said, loosening his tie. "Left me to handle the questions about European market penetration, which you know I hate." "Something came up," Nathan replied vaguely. Daniel helped himself to the bourbon on the bar cart, studying his brother with the intuition of someone who'd shared both DNA and trauma. "Your annual visit to Allison. I should have remembered." He poured a second glass and handed it to Nathan. "To Allie," he said softly, raising his drink. Nathan accepted the glass but didn't drink. "Do you remember Rebecca Foster?" The question clearly caught Daniel off guard. "Allison's research partner, the one who vanished." "Sure." Ally was devastated. He frowned. "Why bring her up now?" "I saw someone today who looked like her." "At the cemetery?" Daniel's eyebrows rose. "After all this time, did you approach her?" "She was with 2 boys, twins. They were playing Claire de Lune on the chapel piano." The significance wasn't lost on his brother. "Allie's piece," Daniel murmured. "That's quite a coincidence." "They had Allison's eyes," Nathan said flatly. "Identical, down to the amber fleck in the left iris." Daniel lowered his glass slowly. "Nate, what exactly are you suggesting?" Before Nathan could answer, his phone buzzed with a text from Vanessa. "Preliminary findings ready. Inconsistencies found. Available to brief when convenient." "I don't know what I'm suggesting," Nathan finally answered, "but I'm going to find out." The Westridge Community Music Program occupied the renovated East Wing of the university's Performing Arts Building. The following afternoon, Nathan approached the reception desk with casual confidence that belied his inner tension. He'd chosen to dress down in slacks and a cashmere sweater rather than his usual suit, less intimidating, less conspicuous. "I have an appointment with Rachel Donovan," he told the student receptionist, having called that morning to schedule a meeting about potential foundation support. "Ms. Donovan is finishing up a lesson. You can wait in her office, second door on the right." Rachel's office was modest but meticulously organized. Framed sheet music decorated the walls alongside photographs of students at recitals. A small, upright piano occupied one corner, On her desk stood a framed photograph of the twins, perhaps a year younger, seated at a grand piano, their faces alight with matching grins. Nathan moved closer to examine the photo when a flash of color caught his eye. A faded blue folder lay partially visible beneath a stack of music books. With a familiar insignia visible on its edge, the Neural Music Therapy Project logo that Allison had designed years ago. The sound of approaching footsteps gave him just enough warning to step away from the desk before Rachel appeared in the doorway. She wore a simple blouse and skirt today, her dark hair loose around her shoulders. The professional smile she'd prepared faltered slightly when she recognized him. Mr. Sterling. Her voice was controlled, but Nathan detected the undercurrent of tension. "I didn't realize you were my appointment. Please call me Nathan." He extended his hand. After a moment's hesitation, she shook it briefly. "How can the music program help you?" Rachel moved behind her desk, a subtle defensive positioning that Nathan immediately registered. The Allison Sterling Foundation provides music education. "Grants," he began, settling into the visitor's chair. "After hearing your sons play yesterday, I was impressed by their talent. It made me curious about your program here." Rachel's posture remained rigid. "We serve approximately 200 students, primarily from underserved communities. Many receive scholarships." She recited facts with practiced precision. "If you're considering supporting our program, I can provide our annual report and needs assessment. Your boys, they're quite remarkable pianists for their age." A flicker of pride briefly softened her wariness. "They've played since they were 4. They mentioned sheet music with my wife's name on it." Nathan watched her carefully. "I'd be interested to know how you came to have it." Rachel's fingers tensed almost imperceptibly on her desk. "I collect used sheet music for students who can't afford new materials. Most of it comes from donations, estate sales, that sort of thing. And the phrase they mentioned about mathematics and emotion, that was something my wife originated during her research." Rachel's eyes darted briefly to the blue folder before, returning to Nathan's face. "It's a common concept in music theory circles, the connection between mathematical patterns and emotional response." Nathan leaned forward slightly. "Ms. Donovan, or should I say Ms. Foster?" The color drained from Rachel's face. For a moment she seemed unable to speak. Then her expression hardened. "I don't know what you're implying, Mr. Sterling, but my name is Rachel Donovan. If you're not genuinely interested in supporting our program, I have students waiting." Nathan placed a photograph on her desk, Rebecca Foster at a university function 12 years ago, standing beside Allison. "Interesting how much you resemble Allison's former research partner, the partner who disappeared without explanation, just months before our wedding." Rachel's gaze fixed on the photograph, her composure cracking further. "This is inappropriate. I'd like you to leave." "The boys are 9, aren't they? Born approximately 9 months after Rebecca Foster vanished." Nathan kept his voice level, though his heart hammered in his chest. "They have Allison's eyes, exactly her eyes. You need to go." Rachel stood abruptly. "Or I'll call security." "I'm not here to threaten you," Nathan said, remaining seated. "But I deserve answers. Allison deserved answers. She searched for Rebecca. For months, she was heartbroken by her disappearance." Rachel's expression flickered with something complex, guilt perhaps, or grief. For a moment Nathan thought she might finally speak the truth. Instead, she reached for her phone. "I'm calling." "Security." Nathan stood, recognizing the impasse. "Your address is 1824 Maple Street, apartment 3B. You've lived there for 6 years. Before that, you resided briefly in Seattle, Portland, and Chicago under variations of Rachel Donovan. There's no record of you before 12 years ago. No birth certificate, no school records, no employment history." Her hand froze over the phone. "I'm not trying to disrupt your life," Nathan continued more gently. "But those boys, if they're somehow connected to Allison, I need to understand how." Rachel's face had gone completely still, a mask of careful control. "My sons have nothing to do with your wife." "Then why do they have her eyes? Why do they play her favorite piece? Why do you have her research materials?" Nathan gestured to the blue folder. "Why did you run when you heard my name yesterday?" A knock at the door interrupted the tense standoff. A student coordinator poked her head in. "Miss Donovan, the twins?" School called. "There was some kind of incident. They're asking you to come right away." Rachel's composed facade cracked completely. "What happened? Are they hurt?" "They didn't say. Just that it's urgent." Nathan watched as terror replaced Rachel's defensiveness, the instinctive fear of a mother whose children might be in danger. In that moment, he made a decision. "My car is outside," he said. "I can drive you." Rachel hesitated, clearly calculating her limited options. "This doesn't mean I'm answering your questions," she finally said, grabbing her coat and bag. "Understood." As they hurried through the building, Nathan's phone vibrated with a message from Vanessa. "Urgent development. Contacted by third party who's been searching for Rachel Donovan. Claims potential danger to the twins. Call immediately." Nathan glanced at Rachel, striding ahead of him, her face tight with worry, and felt a chill settle over him. Someone else was looking for her and the boys, and according to Vanessa, that someone might pose a threat. The mystery was deepening by the minute, and Nathan was increasingly certain that understanding it would change everything he thought he knew about Allison's life and death. Nathan's Bentley cut through midday traffic with urgent precision, Rachel clutching the door handle as they navigated toward Oak Ridge Elementary School. The silence between them was thick with unasked questions and unspoken fears. "Which one?" Rachel finally asked, her voice tight. "Which what?" Nathan glanced at her, momentarily confused. Which twin had the incident, Mason or Ethan? They didn't specify. Nathan checked his mirrors, an old habit from his security training. Was that the same black SUV he'd noticed 2 blocks back? "Do they have different medical conditions?" Rachel hesitated before answering. "Mason has mild asthma. Ethan gets migraines occasionally." She turned to look directly at him. "Why are you doing this? Driving me, investigating us? What do you want?" Nathan kept his eyes on the road. "The truth." "About what?" "You think I'm someone I'm not based on a vague resemblance to a woman who disappeared a decade ago." 12 years, Nathan corrected, "and it's more than a resemblance. You have her research materials. You know phrases unique to Allison's work. Your sons have the exact genetic marker in their eyes that was distinctive to my wife's family line." Rachel's breathing quickened slightly. "Coincidences?" "I don't believe in coincidences." The elementary school came into view, a sprawling single-story brick building with a colorful playground. Nathan parked in the visitor section, and Rachel was out of the car before he fully stopped, rushing toward the entrance. As Nathan followed, he discreetly checked the message from Vanessa again. Who was this third party searching for Rachel and the twins? And why had they contacted his head of security? Inside the school office, a scene of controlled chaos greeted them. A harried secretary looked up as Rachel burst in. "Ms. Donovan." "Thank goodness they're in Nurse Mitchell's office. What happened?" Rachel demanded. The secretary lowered her voice. "There was an incident at recess. A man was photographing the playground from the street. When a teacher approached him, he asked specifically about the twins. Security was called, but he left. Before they arrived, Nathan felt Rachel stiffen beside him. Before she could respond, twin voices called out in unison, "Mom!" Mason and Ethan emerged from the nurse's office, physically unharmed but clearly shaken. They rushed to Rachel, who knelt to embrace them both. "We're okay," Mason said, his voice muffled against her shoulder. He had a camera with a long lens. Ethan added, "Always the detail-oriented one." Rachel held them at arm's length, examining their faces. "Did he speak to you? Did you recognize him?" Both boys shook their heads. Ms. Winters spotted him first, Mason explained. He knew our names, Ethan said quietly. He asked Ms. Winters which one was which. Nathan watched the family interaction with a strange sense of detachment and connection. Simultaneously, the boys might not have been physically harmed, but the incident itself confirmed his growing suspicion. Someone was tracking Rachel and the twins. "Mr. Sterling?" The school principal approached, extending her hand. "I'm Dr. Lopez. The boys mentioned you drove their mother here?" "That's right." Nathan shook her hand, noting her professional but cautious demeanor. "We've filed a police report and reviewed our security footage," Dr. Lopez explained. "Unfortunately, the man stayed just outside our property line, and the cameras didn't capture a clear image of his face. We're implementing additional security protocols immediately." "I'll be taking them home," Rachel interjected, standing protectively. "Near her sons." "Of course," Dr. Lopez nodded. "We've already gathered their belongings." As they prepared to leave, Nathan noticed how the twins kept glancing at him with undisguised curiosity. He caught the moment when Ethan whispered something to Mason, who then studied Nathan's face more intently. Outside in the parking lot, Rachel hesitated by the Bentley. "We can take the bus," she said stiffly. "You've done enough." Nathan met her gaze directly. "Someone was watching your sons today. Someone who knew their names and could distinguish between identical twins. That suggests this wasn't random." Rachel's face paled slightly, but her expression remained resolute. "This has nothing to do with you." "What if it does?" Nathan countered. "What if it's connected to whatever you're hiding about Allison?" The twins exchanged one of those silent communications that only identical siblings seem capable of. Then Mason, or was it Ethan, spoke up. "Mom, maybe we should go with him?" Rachel looked down at her son in surprise. "Mason, we don't know. The man had the same badge as the one who came to our old apartment," Mason continued, his young voice steady but concerned. "The one that made us move here." This new information visibly rattled Rachel. She knelt to her son's level. "Are you absolutely certain?" Both boys nodded solemnly. "The silver shield with the eagle," Ethan confirmed. "I remember because it looked like the one from your box." Nathan watched this exchange with mounting concern and confusion. What box? What badge? The pieces of this puzzle were multiplying rather than connecting. "Let me take you home," he offered, again. "Or, if you're concerned about that location being compromised, I have a secure property outside the city." Rachel's internal struggle played across her face, protective instinct warring with deep-seated caution. Finally, she looked up at Nathan. "We'll go with you for now," she conceded, "but not to your property. I need to collect something from our apartment first." The drive to Rachel's address was tense, Nathan dividing his attention between the road ahead and his rearview mirror. No black SUV appeared to be following them, but his instincts remained on high alert. Rachel's apartment building was modest but well-maintained, located in a middle-class neighborhood near Westridge University. As they approached her unit on the third floor, Rachel turned to Nathan. "Wait here with the boys," she instructed. "I'll only be a minute." "Mom, don't forget the blue box," Ethan reminded her. "And Scout," Mason added. Rachel nodded, then fixed. Nathan with a stern look. "Don't bombard them with questions while I'm gone." After she disappeared into the apartment, an awkward silence fell in the hallway. The twins stood shoulder to shoulder, studying Nathan with identical analytical expressions that reminded him painfully of Allison. "Your mom said not to ask you questions," Nathan finally said. "So how about you ask me some instead?" The boys exchanged another silent communication before Ethan spoke. "Why do you think you know our mom?" Direct and perceptive. Exactly Allison's approach. "I believe I knew her when she went by a different name," Nathan answered carefully. "Before you were born." "Were you friends?" Mason asked. "Not exactly. She was my wife's research partner. The stone lady, Ethan recalled. From the cemetery. Nathan nodded, a lump forming in his throat. Alison Sterling. That's our middle name, Mason said simply. Nathan felt as though the floor had dropped away beneath him. What? Sterling, Ethan clarified. Mason Sterling Donovan and Ethan Sterling. Donovan. Before Nathan could process this bombshell, a crash sounded from inside the apartment, followed by Rachel's muffled cry. He moved instantly, positioning the twins behind him. "Stay here," he ordered, then pushed open the apartment door. The modest living room was in disarray, furniture overturned, books scattered across the floor. A tall figure in a dark suit was struggling with Rachel near a closet, attempting to wrest a metal box from her hands. Nathan reacted on instinct, channeling years of martial arts training that his security team had insisted upon after his first major success had brought threats. He crossed the room in 3 strides and delivered a precise strike to the intruder's kidney, followed by a hard shove that separated him from Rachel. The man recovered quickly, revealing a lean face with cold, assessing eyes. He reached inside. His jacket, for a weapon, Nathan assumed, but Rachel swung the metal box with surprising force, connecting with the intruder's temple. He stumbled, momentarily disoriented. "The back stairs," Rachel gasped, clutching the box to her chest. "Now!" They rushed from the apartment, Nathan grabbing the twins from the hallway as they passed. Mason clutched a worn stuffed dog, Scout, presumably, as they descended the service stairs 2 at a time. "My car," Nathan began. "Too obvious." Rachel cut him off, leading them through a service exit that opened onto an alley behind the building. "We need something untraceable." Nathan pulled out his phone. "I have someone who can help." He sent a rapid text to Vanessa. "Emergency extraction needed. Sending location. Bring unmarked vehicle. Possible pursuit." The response came seconds later. "En route. 6 minutes out. Stay mobile." 6 minutes, Nathan relayed. "We need to keep moving." They hurried down the alley, the twins keeping pace remarkably well, their expressions serious but not panicked. Nathan noted their composure with a mixture of concern and admiration. No ordinary 9-year-olds would handle such a situation with such control. "Who was that?" Nathan demanded, as they turned onto a side street, maintaining a brisk walk to avoid drawing attention. Rachel clutched the metal box with white knuckles. "Government agent or someone posing as one." "What agency?" "They never say." Her breathing was controlled but rapid. "They've been watching us for years, usually from a distance. This is the first direct confrontation. What's in the box?" Nathan nodded toward the metal container. Rachel's eyes met his, filled with conflict and fear. "The truth you've been asking for." They continued moving through side streets, Nathan checking their surroundings constantly while staying connected. With Vanessa via text, the twins remained between the adults, their matching expressions determined rather than frightened. Nathan couldn't help noticing how they moved in perfect synchronization, anticipating each other's movements. Just like Alison had described identical twins in her research papers, connected in ways that transcended normal sibling bonds. Vanessa's sleek black Audi appeared precisely 6 minutes later, pulling alongside them with tinted windows and government-grade armor that Nathan had insisted upon for his security team's vehicles. "Get in!" Nathan urged, opening the rear door. Rachel hesitated only a moment before ushering the twins inside, still clutching the metal box like a lifeline. As they pulled away from the curb, Vanessa assessed them through the rearview mirror. "Safe. House Alpha or headquarters?" she asked Nathan crisply. "Safe house," he decided. "And I need a team at Ms. Donovan's apartment to secure the premises and gather any surveillance footage of the intruder." "Already dispatched," Vanessa confirmed, navigating through traffic with practiced efficiency. "Mr. Sterling, the third party I mentioned earlier, not now." Nathan cut her off with a subtle nod toward the twins, who were watching and listening with keen attention. As they put distance between themselves and the apartment, Nathan observed Rachel's white-knuckled grip on the metal box gradually relax. Whatever it contained, she clearly considered it valuable enough to risk her safety for, and potentially critical to understanding the mystery that connected her to Allison. The twins whispered to each other, their heads close together, occasionally, glancing at Nathan with expressions that seemed to contain both wariness and hope. They had Allison's eyes, her middle name, and apparently her talent for music. The implications were staggering, but Nathan forced himself to remain logical. There could be explanations that didn't lead where his mind was increasingly certain they were heading. Yet as they drove toward the secure location, one thought kept circling in his mind. The twins were exactly the age they would be if conceived. Shortly before Rebecca Foster's disappearance, and shortly before Allison's unexpected diagnosis. The safe house was a modern cabin nestled among towering pines 30 miles outside the city. From the outside, it appeared to be simply an upscale vacation property, but Nathan knew it contained state-of-the-art security systems and was virtually impenetrable without authorization. As they pulled into the covered garage, Vanessa activated protocols that would shield them from satellite surveillance and signal interception. "The property is secure," she announced, leading them through an entrance that required both retinal and fingerprint verification. The interior was surprisingly warm and inviting, designed to provide comfort during potentially extended stays. Floor-to-ceiling windows offered breathtaking forest views, while specially treated glass prevented observation from outside. "The kitchen is fully stocked," Vanessa informed them. "The boys can use the room with twin beds upstairs. Ms. Donovan, there's a master suite adjacent. All communications are encrypted, and the perimeter has motion and heat sensors." "Thank you," Rachel said stiffly, still clutching the metal box. Vanessa turned to Nathan. "A word in private, sir?" While the twins explored the living area under Rachel's watchful eye, Nathan followed Vanessa to the secure communications room. "The third party who contacted us," she began without preamble, "identified himself as Dr. William Garrett, former research director at the Holloway Institute for Genetic Medicine." Nathan frowned. "Never heard of him." "You wouldn't have. The institute officially shut down 12 years ago after a funding scandal. Unofficially, sources suggest it continued operating under classified government contracts." "What's his interest?" "In Rachel and the twins." Vanessa's expression remained neutral, but Nathan detected concern in her eyes. "He claims they were participants in a research program that never officially existed. He was quite insistent about meeting with you. Said you have mutual interests regarding the Sterling genetic lineage." Nathan's mind raced to process this new information. The Holloway Institute? What was their specialty? Genetic engineering, particularly related to intelligence enhancement and inherited traits. Vanessa handed him a tablet displaying a heavily redacted document. "This is all I could find in public records. The rest is buried under national security classifications." Nathan scanned the document, his unease growing. "Schedule a call with this Dr. Garrett. Encrypted line only, no video. I want to hear what he has to say before deciding whether to meet. Already arranged for 7 p.m. tonight." Vanessa hesitated. "Sir, there's something else." The preliminary sweep of Ms. Donovan's apartment identified sophisticated surveillance equipment that doesn't match known commercial or standard government specs. "Meaning?" "Someone with advanced technical capabilities has been monitoring her, recently installed, within the last 2 weeks." This development troubled Nathan deeply. If Rachel had been under surveillance for years, as she claimed, why would new equipment be installed now? What had changed? The answer came to him immediately, his appearance at the cemetery. Their meeting had triggered something. When Nathan returned to the main living area, he found Rachel sitting with the twins at the kitchen counter, preparing sandwiches. The domesticity of the scene struck him forcefully. These children with Allison's eyes, calmly making lunch after escaping an intruder. Their resilience suggested this wasn't their first experience with danger. "We need to talk," Nathan said to Rachel. "After they eat." She nodded slightly, continuing to slice apples with precise movements. Nathan noticed how the twins mirrored each other's posture even while seated on separate stools, their movements synchronized in subtle ways. "Mr. Sterling," Ethan began, his voice carrying the formality of a child attempting to sound grown up, "are you going to help us stop running?" The question caught Nathan off guard. "Running?" Mason nodded. "We've moved 6 times since we were little, always at night, always because of the men with badges." "Mason," Rachel warned softly. "Mom, he helped us get away," Mason argued. "And he knew the stone lady." "Allison," Nathan corrected gently. "Her name was Allison." "Was she nice?" Ethan asked, his eyes, those hauntingly familiar eyes, fixed on Nathan's face. Nathan felt a constriction in his chest. "She was brilliant, compassionate. She loved music more than anything. She could listen to a complex piece once and play it from memory." "Like us," Mason said simply. "Yes," Nathan agreed, the implications of that similarity hanging in the air between them, "like you." After lunch, Rachel directed the twins to the living room where they discovered a chess set. Within minutes, they were engaged in a match that involved complex strategies Nathan wouldn't have expected from 9-year-olds. Rachel led the way to the deck, overlooking the forest, the metal box still in her possession. Once outside, she placed it on a table between them and took a deep breath. "Before I open this," she said quietly, "I need your word that your priority will be protecting the boys, regardless of what you learn." Nathan studied her face, noting the exhaustion hidden beneath her composed exterior. "You have it." Rachel unlocked the box with a small key from around her neck. Inside lay several items: a worn leather journal, a USB drive, several photographs, and most surprisingly, what appeared to be medical vials with biohazard labels. "I'm not Rebecca Foster," she began, meeting his gaze directly. "My real name is Dr. Rachel Donovan. I worked at the Holloway Institute as a geneticist specializing in hereditary cognitive traits." Nathan kept his expression neutral despite his surprise. "Go on." 12 years ago, I was assigned to a classified project studying exceptional genetic markers. We were identifying candidates with unique cognitive and sensory processing abilities," she continued. "Allison Sterling became one of our subjects, though she never knew the full scope of the research." "What?" Nathan's composure slipped. "Allison participated in genetic research?" Rachel shook her head. "Not knowingly. She believed she was part of a study on music cognition, how mathematically gifted individuals process musical patterns. Her university partnered with Holloway, providing test subjects." "And Rebecca Foster?" Nathan pressed. "She was Allison's handler, assigned to monitor her progress and collect data. Rebecca and Allison became genuine friends, which wasn't supposed to happen." Rachel's expression darkened. "When Rebecca began questioning the ethics of the program, she was removed." The clinical way she described it sent a chill through Nathan. "Removed how?" "I don't know exactly. She disappeared, and we were told she'd been reassigned. Shortly after I discovered what the Institute was really doing with the genetic samples." Rachel opened the journal, revealing pages of complex formulas and medical notations. They weren't just studying exceptional genetics, they were harvesting them for the next phase, which was, Rachel paused, clearly weighing how much to reveal, reproductive engineering, creating genetically enhanced embryos using harvested genetic material from exceptional subjects without their knowledge or consent. The implications struck Nathan with physical force. Are you saying Mason and Ethan carry Alison Sterling's genetic markers? Rachel confirmed quietly. Combined with another subject from the program, a mathematician with exceptional pattern recognition abilities. Nathan's mind reeled as pieces fell into place. My wife's eggs were harvested without her knowledge during a routine university medical screening and used to create embryos. His voice hardened. Where do you fit into this? I was the whistleblower, Rachel replied. When I discovered what was happening, I copied files and collected physical evidence. She gestured to the vials. Original DNA samples. When they realized I was gathering evidence, I became a target. So you ran? Not immediately. Rachel's voice dropped. First, I rescued the twins. They were 3 months old, still in the Institute's developmental observation unit. They were subjects, not children to these people, being raised in a controlled environment to monitor their cognitive development. Nathan struggled to process the magnitude of what she was describing. You stole them. I rescued them, Rachel corrected firmly, and I've been hiding ever since, keeping them safe, trying to give them some semblance of a normal childhood while being hunted by people who see them as valuable assets, not human beings. And the Sterling middle name? Rachel's expression softened slightly. I knew whose genetic material had been used. I thought they should carry something of their biological mother, even if they could never know her. Nathan stared out at the forest, his thoughts in turmoil. If what Rachel claimed was true, these boys were, in a biological sense, Alison's children. Children she never knew existed, created without her consent. Why come back to this city? He finally asked. Why risk being near where the Institute operated? Because I'm running out of options, Rachel admitted. The boys' abilities are becoming increasingly difficult to hide in conventional school settings. Their synchronized cognition, their musical capabilities, their mathematical processing, it's all accelerating. And the people hunting us are getting closer. She opened the journal to a specific page showing brain scan comparisons. These are from 6 months ago. The neural connections between Mason and Ethan are unlike anything documented in identical twin studies. They don't just think alike, they think as connected parts of a single system. Like quantum entanglement, Nathan murmured, recalling Alison's research on twin cognition. Exactly. Rachel looked surprised at his understanding. They're manifesting precisely what the program was designed to create. Enhanced cognitive capabilities with synchronized processing. 2 brains functioning as one enhanced system, playing complex piano pieces in perfect harmony, Nathan added, thinking of the scene in the chapel. Rachel nodded. Their musical ability is one manifestation of their unique neural architecture. But there are others, mathematical processing far beyond their years, pattern recognition that borders on predictive capability. The secure tablet on Nathan's belt vibrated with an incoming message. Vanessa had sent a priority alert. Dr. Garrett call moved up. Available now. Urgent development. I need to take this call, Nathan told Rachel. It may help us understand who's after you. Her eyes widened. Garrett? William Garrett? You know him? He was the research director, Rachel confirmed, her voice tight with anxiety. If he's contacting you, something significant has changed. He wouldn't risk exposure unless... She stopped abruptly, a new fear dawning in her expression. Unless what? Nathan pressed. Unless they're implementing the final phase, she whispered. The one even most Institute staff didn't know about. Before Nathan could question her further, a commotion from inside the house caught their attention. They hurried back to find the twins standing rigid before the large living room window, staring at the chessboard they'd abandoned. Every piece had been meticulously arranged to spell out 4 words: "We found you again." Vanessa burst into the room, weapon drawn. "Perimeter breach," she reported tersely. Multiple heat signatures approaching from the north. And sir, our communications were just compromised. That wasn't Dr. Garrett who requested the call. Nathan moved immediately to the security panel, initiating lockdown protocols. How many? At least 6. Professional formation. Rachel rushed to the twins, who remained unnervingly calm. Pack. Room, she instructed them, and they moved in unison toward the stairs, practicing what was clearly a well-rehearsed emergency procedure. How did they find us? Nathan demanded, accessing the external camera feeds. This location isn't connected to me on any official records. They didn't follow us, Rachel said grimly, retrieving the metal box. They followed them, she pointed, to the twins, who were efficiently gathering essentials upstairs. That's what the Institute created them to be, human tracking systems. The boys can sense each other across any distance. If they've located one of the other subjects from the program, they can lead them straight to Mason and Ethan. Nathan finished, the horrifying implications becoming clear. Because they're genetically connected, the external cameras showed 6 figures in tactical gear moving steadily through the forest. Not government agents, Nathan realized. Their approach was too unstructured, their equipment mismatched. Mercenaries, most likely. There's a secure exit tunnel, Nathan told Rachel. It leads to a secondary location half a mile away with emergency transport. As they prepared to evacuate, Nathan received another alert from his security team. A vehicle was approaching the main road, a government SUV with federal identification. The situation was escalating rapidly. Unknown mercenaries closing in from the forest, potential government agents approaching by road, and 2 9-year-old boys at the center of it all, carriers of Allison's genetic legacy and products of an unethical experiment that had suddenly become very, very active. The quiet investigation into Rachel Donovan's identity had exploded into something far more dangerous than Nathan could have anticipated. What had begun with a chance encounter at a cemetery was rapidly expanding into a conspiracy that reached into classified government programs and experimental genetic engineering. And somewhere in this web of secrets lay the truth about Allison's death, a connection Nathan was beginning to suspect was no coincidence at all. "Move now," Nathan ordered, guiding Rachel and the twins toward the concealed entrance to the escape tunnel. Vanessa had activated the house's defensive measures, reinforced shutters sliding over windows, access points sealing automatically. "I need 2 minutes with the security systems," Nathan told Vanessa. "Get them to the secondary location and prepare for immediate extraction." Rachel hesitated. "We should stay together." "I'm right behind you," Nathan assured her, "but I need to access the surveillance recordings. If these people found us this quickly, I want to know how." The twins stood close together, their expressions solemn but composed. No tears, no panic, just the unnerving calm of children who had lived with danger for most of their lives. 120 seconds, Ethan stated precisely. "Then we go regardless." Nathan nodded, struck again by their maturity. "Deal." As Vanessa escorted Rachel and the twins through the hidden panel in the pantry, Nathan moved quickly to the security center. He initiated a data upload of all surveillance footage to his encrypted cloud server, then accessed the communication logs. The call request, supposedly from Dr. Garrett, had originated from a spoofed number, but the system had automatically recorded the actual source. Nathan's blood ran cold as the trace results appeared on screen. Sentinel Technologies, his own company. The betrayal came from within. With no time to process this revelation, Nathan grabbed the tablet containing the surveillance data and Rachel's metal box, then hurried to the escape tunnel. The reinforced concrete passage was lit by recessed emergency lighting, leading to a smaller cabin that served as a secondary evacuation point. Just as he sealed the entrance behind him, he heard the distinctive sound of breaching charges above. The mercenaries had entered the main house. Nathan jogged through the tunnel, mind racing. Who at Sentinel had compromised them? And why? The SAW company had no connection to genetic research or the Holloway Institute, or at least none that he knew of. The tunnel opened into a storage room in the secondary cabin. Nathan emerged to find Vanessa checking her weapons, while Rachel spoke intensely with the twins, who sat side by side on a bench, their identical expressions focused and intent. "They've breached the main cabin," Nathan reported. "We have minutes at most before they find the tunnel entrance." "Transport is ready," Vanessa confirmed, "but we have another situation. The government vehicle has bypassed the main property and is heading directly to this location." "That's impossible," Nathan said. "This location isn't on any registry." "They're following us," Mason said quietly. "Not physically, differently." Nathan turned to him. "What do you mean?" Ethan answered instead, the twins' habit of sharing thoughts manifesting again. "We can feel them. Like magnets pulling, they have someone like us with them." Rachel's face drained of color. "Subject 8, she whispered. "They've activated another subject." "The extraction vehicles are in the garage," Vanessa interrupted. "We need to move before both parties converge on our location." Nathan made a rapid decision. "Take the decoy vehicle," he instructed Vanessa. "Make it obvious. Draw them away from us. I'll take Rachel and the twins in the secondary vehicle on the alternative route." Vanessa nodded grimly. "Understood. Rendezvous at Protocol. Location Omega." As Vanessa prepared to depart, Nathan accessed the small armory concealed in the cabin wall, selecting a handgun and extra ammunition. He hadn't fired a weapon outside a training facility in years, but the muscle memory remained. "You know how to handle that?" Rachel asked, eyeing the gun. "Former military," Nathan replied simply. "Before I built Sentinel." A flicker of surprise crossed her face. "The Billionaire Tech CEO was a soldier. 4 years Special Forces. My father insisted on service before joining the family business." Nathan checked the weapon efficiently. "I chose a different path afterward, but the training stays with you." Outside, they heard the distinctive sound of helicopter rotors approaching, not close yet, but searching. The situation was escalating beyond even Nathan's extensive security preparations. Vanessa departed in the primary escape vehicle, a reinforced SUV with tactical countermeasures. Her task was to draw attention while Nathan and Rachel escaped, with the twins in an unassuming sedan with diplomatic plates, one of several emergency options Nathan had arranged over the years. As they prepared to leave, Nathan noticed the twins standing motionless near the wall, their eyes closed, hands barely touching. "What are they doing?" he asked Rachel quietly. "Synchronizing," she replied. "When they're stressed, they realign their thought patterns. It helps them process more efficiently, like defragmenting a computer system," Nathan observed. Rachel nodded. "Something like that. They've developed their own methods for managing their unique neurology." "Are there others besides Subject 8? Rachel's expression darkened. "Originally, there were 12 pairs of twins in the program, each developed from genetic material collected from 2 exceptional subjects. Some died in early development, others—" She trailed off, unable to finish the thought. "Their life expectancy is uncertain," she finally continued. "The Institute was experimenting with accelerated development, both physical and neurological. Some subjects experienced catastrophic neural deterioration by age 7. The twins opened their eyes simultaneously, their synchronized movement once again startling Nathan. "They're approaching from both directions," Mason announced calmly. 8 minutes until convergence," Ethan added with eerie precision. "How can you know that?" Nathan asked, despite the urgency of their situation. "We can feel the other one," Mason explained, as if this were perfectly normal. "The connection gets stronger with proximity." "Like sonar," Ethan added, "but through thoughts, not sound." Nathan exchanged a troubled glance with Rachel. The implications were staggering. Human beings engineered with the capacity to sense and track each other across distance. "Let's move," he decided, leading them to the garage where the diplomatic sedan waited. "Stay low and follow my lead." The forest surrounding the secondary cabin offered temporary cover, but with a helicopter now visible through the canopy and ground teams approaching from two directions, their window for escape was rapidly closing. Nathan drove with controlled urgency, taking a maintenance road that wound through the densest section of forest. The diplomatic plates would offer some protection if they encountered law enforcement, but against whoever was pursuing them, mercenaries or covert government agents, such niceties would mean little. In the back seat, the twins sat unnaturally, still, eyes fixed on something only they could perceive. "They're still following," Ethan reported, "but the connection is weaker now. We're moving away from alignment." Nathan glanced at Rachel beside him. "Alignment? It's a term from the research," she explained, voice hushed. "When genetically similar subjects come into proximity, their neural patterns begin to synchronize, even between separate twin pairs. The Institute called it distributed cognition alignment." "That's how they're tracking us," Nathan realized. "Not through technology, but through the twins themselves." Rachel nodded grimly. "It was one of the project's military applications, human tracking systems that can't be blocked by conventional countermeasures." As they reached the edge of the forest, Nathan's secure phone vibrated with an encrypted message from Vanessa. "Decoy successful. Pursuing vehicles diverted. Safe to proceed to Omega. Will rendezvous at 1900. A small victory, but Nathan knew it was temporary. If what Rachel and the twins described was accurate, conventional evasion tactics would ultimately prove futile against pursuers using what amounted to psychic tracking. "Where are we going?" Rachel asked as they joined a rural highway heading away from the city. "Somewhere truly off the grid," Nathan replied. "A property not connected to me in any way." "That won't matter if they're using Subject 8 to track." "The twins," Rachel pointed out. "Can the connection be blocked?" Nathan asked. Rachel hesitated. "Theoretically, yes. Certain compounds were being developed to temporarily suppress the neural signatures, but they're experimental, with significant side effects." Mason leaned forward slightly. "Mom has some in her box," he said. "The yellow vials." Nathan glanced at Rachel sharply. "You've used these compounds on them before?" Her expression hardened. "Only in emergencies, when there was no other option." "And the side effects?" "Cognitive dampening," she admitted reluctantly. "Temporary suppression of their enhanced abilities. Essentially, it makes them neurologically ordinary for about 12 hours. The twins exchanged one of their silent communications. "We should take it now," Ethan decided. "It would give us time to reach safety." Mason agreed. Rachel turned to face them. "You know how it affects you. You'll feel disconnected from each other." "We know," they replied in unison, their acceptance suggesting they had indeed experienced this before. 2 hours later, they arrived at a modest lakeside cabin nestled in a remote valley. Unlike Nathan's high-tech safe houses, this property was deliberately analog, no internet connection, minimal electricity, nothing that could be traced or hacked. "It belonged to my grandfather," Nathan explained as they entered the rustic interior. "It's not in my name, not connected to any of my known assets. Few people know it exists." The twins had grown increasingly quiet during the journey, the effects of the neural suppressant gradually manifesting. They moved slightly out of sync now, their uncanny coordination diminished. To Nathan, they looked more like ordinary 9-year-old boys, tired, somewhat disoriented, but otherwise normal. "They need to rest," Rachel said, guiding them to a small bedroom with bunk beds. "The transition is physically draining." While she settled the boys, Nathan secured the perimeter and established the minimal communications he'd allow, a single satellite phone for emergency contact with Vanessa. Then he reviewed the surveillance data he'd retrieved from the safe house, searching for answers about the security breach. By the time Rachel returned, he had found something disturbing. "There's a hidden subroutine in Sentinel's communications. Network," he told her, displaying the code on his tablet. "It's been monitoring for specific keywords related to the Holloway Institute and something called Project Resonance." Rachel stiffened visibly. That was the official designation for the twin program. "This code is sophisticated, military-grade. It's been dormant in our systems for years, only activating when I requested information on you and the Holloway Institute." Nathan ran a hand through his hair in frustration. "Someone compromised my company long before I ever met you." Rachel sank into a chair, the weight of their situation evident in her posture. Project Resonance was never just a scientific endeavor. It had military intelligence applications from the beginning, human assets engineered for synchronized information processing and covert communication. "Living quantum computers," Nathan murmured, recalling Allison's theoretical work on twin cognition. She was researching this without knowing how her work would be applied. Rachel nodded slowly. Allison's research on mathematical processing in musically gifted identical twins provided the theoretical framework. She believed she was contributing to educational psychology. She never knew they were using her findings to design genetically engineered human intelligence systems, and using her genetic material to create those systems, Nathan added, a cold anger building inside him. Did she ever suspect? Is that why? He couldn't finish the sentence, the implication too terrible to voice. Why she got cancer? Rachel's voice was gentle but direct. "I don't know. The timing was concerning. Several genetic donors who began asking questions developed aggressive illnesses, but there was never proof of causation. The possibility that Allison's illness might have been deliberately induced to silence her hung in the air between them, too monstrous to fully contemplate, yet impossible to dismiss. "The boys," Nathan said, changing direction. "Will they recover from the suppressant effects?" "Yes. Their enhanced capabilities will return gradually over the next 12 hours, but they'll remain undetectable to Subject 8 during that time," Rachel assured him. "It gives us a window to plan our next move." Nathan studied her face, the face he had initially mistaken for Rebecca Foster's. "You've been protecting them alone for 9 years. Why didn't you go public with what you knew?" "Who would believe?" "Me?" Rachel asked bitterly. "A rogue scientist claiming the government was creating genetically engineered children with psychic abilities? I'd have been discredited instantly, probably institutionalized, and the twins would have been taken." She hesitated, then continued more softly. "And there's another reason. The twins are extraordinary, not just their enhanced cognition, but who they are as people. I couldn't bear the thought of them becoming laboratory specimens again, studied and exploited. They deserve lives of their own." Nathan understood her motivation with unexpected clarity. It was what Allison would have wanted for them too: protection, normalcy, the chance to define themselves beyond the experiment that created them. "What's our next move?" Rachel asked. "We have maybe 10 hours before the suppressant wears off and they can be tracked again." Nathan accessed a secure file on his tablet, contingency plans he'd developed years ago but never expected to use. "We're going to find Dr. William Garrett, the real one. If he reached out to my security team, he must have information we need. And if he's working with the people hunting us, then at least we'll know who we're dealing with." Nathan's expression hardened with determination. "Someone used my wife's genetic material without her consent. Someone may have given her cancer to silence her. And someone has been hunting these boys, Allison's sons, for 9 years. I'm going to find out who, and I'm going to make them pay." Rachel studied him for a long moment. "You're accepting this quickly, that the twins are connected to Allison, that their creation was unethical, Most people would be in denial. Nathan's gaze drifted to the small bedroom where Mason and Ethan now slept. I've suspected something was wrong about Allison's death for years. Her cancer was too aggressive, too resistant to treatment. And those boys have her eyes. Exactly her eyes. Some things you just know. Outside, night was falling over the lake, casting long shadows across the water. In the quiet cabin, Nathan Sterling and Rachel Donovan, two people connected by an unthinkable scientific violation, prepared to face an enemy that had remained hidden for more than a decade. And in the small bedroom, Allison Sterling's biological son slept, temporarily freed from the neural enhancements that made them both miraculous and hunted. Dawn broke over the lake in gentle watercolor hues, the early morning mist creating an ethereal boundary between the cabin and the outside world. Nathan had spent most of the night analyzing data from the encrypted files he'd extracted from Sentinel's systems, searching for the source of the breach. Rachel emerged from checking on the twins, dark circles under her eyes betraying her lack of sleep. They're still resting. The suppressant affects their sleep cycles, deeper than normal, almost coma-like. Are they in any danger? Nathan asked, concerned. No, their vital signs remain stable. It's their way of processing the neural interruption. She accepted the cup of coffee he offered. Any progress on identifying our pursuers? Nathan gestured to his tablet. I've isolated the breach in our system. It originated in a specialized communications division at Sentinel, one that handles government contracts. His expression darkened. Specifically, contracts with the Defense Intelligence Agency. The DIA, Rachel murmured. That tracks. They were the primary funding source for Project Resonance after it went black. My own company has been compromised. For years, without my knowledge, Nathan said, the betrayal evident in his tone. Someone very high up has been monitoring for keywords related to the project. Have you identified who? Not specifically, but I've narrowed it to our Applied Neural Analytics division. That narrows it to 3 executives with sufficient clearance. Nathan pulled up personnel files. Christina Warner, Marcus Vega, and... He paused, a cold realization settling over him. Thomas Kiernan. You know him? Rachel asked, noting his reaction. He was my wife's oncologist. Nathan's voice had grown dangerously quiet. He oversaw her entire treatment plan. Rachel's eyes widened with understanding. If they wanted to monitor her or induce an illness, having control over her, medical care would be essential. The implications hung heavily between them. If Kiernan was indeed connected to Project Resonance, Allison's cancer might not have been natural at all, but a calculated elimination of someone who potentially knew too much. I've arranged contact with Dr. Garrett, Nathan continued after. A moment, his voice controlled despite the emotional storm within. Vanessa verified his identity through multiple channels. He's agreed to meet us, but only on his terms, a public location with specific security protocols. When? Today at noon. A restaurant in Burlington, about 40 miles from here. Nathan checked his watch. We have 4 hours to prepare, and approximately 6 before the suppressant wears off completely. Rachel nodded, understanding the narrow window they were working with. What about the twins? We can't leave them alone, but bringing them would risk exposure. Vanessa will be here in an hour. She'll remain with them while we meet Garrett. Nathan had considered every angle. The cabin has emergency protocols if anything happens. She knows how to implement them. The sound of small footsteps interrupted their planning. Mason appeared in the doorway, his movements slightly sluggish, lacking his usual precise coordination. His eyes, though tired, retained that haunting similarity. To Allison's. Ethan's having bad dreams, he reported, his voice lacking its usual analytical quality. He can't feel me properly, it scares him. Rachel immediately moved to comfort him. That's the medicine, remember? It makes your connection quieter for a little while. It will come back. Mason nodded solemnly. I know, but it still feels wrong. Like part of me is missing. He turned his attention to Nathan, studying him with an intensity that seemed beyond his years, even in his dampened state. You were her husband, the stone lady. Allison, Nathan corrected gently. Yes, I was. You our father? The question was direct, innocent in its delivery, but profound in its implications. Nathan glanced at Rachel, who seemed equally caught off guard by the inquiry. It's complicated, he answered carefully. Genetically, Allison was your biological mother, but I wasn't. He hesitated, searching for words to explain artificial conception to a 9-year-old. We understand genetics, Mason said simply. We know we were created, not born normally. We know we have special patterns in our brains that other children don't have. The matter-of-fact way he described his own unusual origins was both heartbreaking and remarkable to Nathan. Then no, I'm not genetically your father, but Allison never knew about you. If she had... He trailed off, emotion threatening to overcome his usual control. She would have protected us, Mason finished for him, with such certainty that Nathan felt a constriction in his chest. Yes, with everything she had. Mason considered this for a moment. Are you going to protect us now? The question hung in the air, deceptively simple yet laden with meaning. Nathan found himself kneeling to the boy's level, looking directly into those familiar eyes. Yes, he promised, the word carrying the weight of absolute conviction. I am. The restaurant in Burlington was carefully chosen. Upscale enough to ensure privacy, public enough to discourage direct confrontation. Nathan and Rachel arrived separately as a security precaution, with Nathan entering first to survey the environment. While Rachel waited in a coffee shop across the street, Dr. William Garrett had selected a corner table with clear sightlines to all exits, the choice of a man accustomed to watching his back. In his mid-60s, with silver hair and wire-rimmed glasses, he presented the appearance of a distinguished academic rather than a scientist involved in classified genetic engineering. Nathan approached directly, making no attempt to disguise his arrival. Dr. Garrett, the older man looked up, assessing Nathan with clinical precision. Mr. Sterling, you look remarkably like your father. The unexpected personal reference caught Nathan off guard. You knew my father? Harrison Sterling was on the original funding committee for the Holloway Institute before it went dark. Garrett gestured to the chair opposite him. Which is something I suspect you didn't know. Nathan maintained his composure despite this revelation as he took the offered seat. My father never mentioned any connection to genetic research. He wouldn't have. The initial funding was channeled through technology investment consortiums, legitimate businesses with classified divisions. Garrett's expression revealed nothing. Your family's involvement ended when the military assumed full control of the project. Nathan sent a pre-arranged text message to Rachel, 3 random words confirming. The meeting was proceeding safely. Why reach out to me now, after all these years? Because Project Resonance has entered its final phase, Garrett replied, his voice lowered. The phase I tried to prevent when I was removed from the program 12 years ago. Which is? Garrett glanced around before continuing. The original vision was revolutionary but ethically sound, identifying genetic markers for exceptional cognitive abilities, developing treatments for neurological conditions. But the military applications corrupted everything. His expression hardened with old anger. When I objected to using harvested genetic material to create subjects without donor consent, I was forcibly retired. And Rachel Donovan, Nathan pressed, one of my most brilliant researchers. When she discovered what was happening, she did what I couldn't. She took direct action. A hint of pride crossed Garrett's face. Rescuing those boys was incredibly brave and incredibly dangerous. A movement at the restaurant entrance caught Nathan's attention. Rachel had arrived, her posture tense as she navigated to their table. "Dr. Garrett," she acknowledged stiffly as she sat beside Nathan. "You've done remarkably well, Dr. Donovan," Garrett replied. "Keeping them hidden for 9 years. Giving them something approaching a normal childhood. Why are you helping us?" she demanded, cutting through pleasantries. "You were their director." "Because the final phase is worse than anything you've imagined," Garrett said gravely. "It's not just about the twins' cognitive capabilities anymore. It's about what happens when all 12 surviving subjects from different pairs are brought into proximity." "Distributed cognition alignment," Rachel murmured. "On an unprecedented scale," Garrett confirmed. "The theoretical models suggest that if all neurologically enhanced subjects are aligned in proximity, they create a unified cognitive network capable of processing information at rates that surpass our most advanced quantum computing systems." "A human supercomputer," Nathan translated. "One that can break any encryption, predict complex system behaviors, and potentially access secured networks through means we don't fully understand." Garrett removed his glasses, suddenly looking older. "Some researchers described it as technologically facilitated telepathy. Others called it weaponized consciousness." Rachel's face had paled. "That's why they're gathering the subjects now, after years of monitoring from a distance?" "Exactly. They've been content to observe the separate development of each pair, studying how their abilities manifest in different environments. But now they're collecting them, bringing them to a new facility constructed specifically for the alignment procedure." "How many have they already collected?" Nathan asked. 8 of the 12 surviving subjects," Garrett said grimly. "Your twins and 1 other pair remain at large." The implication was clear. Mason and Ethan were among the final pieces needed to complete whatever terrible experiment was underway. "There's something else you should know," Garrett continued, his voice dropping further. "About Alison Sterling's death." Nathan tensed visibly, his hands flat against the table. "Was it deliberate?" "Not in the way you might think," Garrett replied carefully. "Her genetic profile made her an ideal donor for the program. Exceptional. Mathematical processing, perfect pitch, remarkable pattern recognition. But those same genetic markers carried a predisposition for an aggressive form of cancer." "Are you saying her cancer was natural?" Rachel asked. "The predisposition was natural, the trigger was not." Garrett's expression darkened. "The program developed a compound that could activate dormant genetic vulnerabilities. When Allison began investigating her friend Rebecca Foster's disappearance too aggressively, they made a decision. The controlled rage that had been building in Nathan threatened to explode." "Who?" he demanded. "Who gave the order?" "The same person who's running the final phase now," Garrett replied. "Director Eleanor Vance of the DIA's Special Applications Division. She's been overseeing Project Resonance from the shadows for 15 years. Nathan committed the name to memory, a cold clarity settling over him. "And Dr. Kiernan, my wife's oncologist, one of Vance's primary medical assets. He ensured Allison received treatment that appeared comprehensive while actually accelerating her decline." Garrett's clinical delivery couldn't disguise the horror of what he was describing. "I'm sorry, Mr. Sterling. Your wife's death was neither natural nor accidental. It was an elimination of a potential security risk." The restaurant continued its normal lunchtime bustle around them, the mundane normality a stark contrast to the monstrous conspiracy being revealed at their corner table. "Why tell us this now?" Rachel asked, breaking the heavy silence that had fallen. "Because I've spent 12 years gathering evidence, building a case against the program and those who corrupted it," Garrett explained. "I'm ready to take everything public, the unethical genetic harvesting, the human experimentation, the targeted eliminations. but I need something only you have. The twins, Nathan guessed. Their testimony and DNA evidence would provide irrefutable proof of the program's existence and methods, Garrett confirmed. Without them, it's the word of a disgraced scientist against a classified military program that officially doesn't exist. You're asking us to put them at risk, Rachel stated flatly. I'm offering a way to end their life on the run, Garrett countered. With sufficient public exposure and legal protection, they could finally be safe. Nathan's security instincts were firing warning signals. If we agreed, how would you propose to proceed? I have a secure location where... Garrett stopped mid-sentence, his gaze fixing on something over Nathan's shoulder. His expression shifted to alarm. We need to leave. Now. Nathan turned slightly, using the reflection in a decorative mirror to see what had alarmed Garrett. A man and woman in nondescript business attire had entered the restaurant, their movements carrying the distinctive efficiency of trained operatives. Back exit, Nathan instructed quietly. Move naturally. As they rose from the table, Nathan noticed Garrett discreetly slide a small flash drive under Nathan's napkin, an insurance policy in case they were separated. They moved toward the kitchen, maintaining a casual pace despite the urgency coursing through them. Nathan's mind was racing, calculating escape routes and contingencies. The revelation about his father's connection to the Holloway Institute had caught him completely off guard, raising questions about how deep this conspiracy truly went. As they passed through the swinging doors into the kitchen, alarming staff members who began to protest, Nathan's phone vibrated with an urgent message. From Vanessa, location compromised, subjects moved to secondary extraction point, multiple hostiles. The twins were in danger. We've been played, Nathan realized, grabbing Rachel's arm to hurry her through the kitchen's rear exit. This meeting was a distraction. They're after the boys. The rural highway blurred past as Nathan pushed the vehicle to its limits. Rachel, bracing herself against the dashboard while Garrett monitored the secure tablet from the back seat. They had abandoned caution for speed, racing toward the lakeside cabin where Vanessa had reported hostile contact. ETA 6 minutes, Nathan announced, taking a sharp turn. What exactly are we heading into, Garrett? Standard DIA extraction team, Garrett replied grimly. 4 to 6 operatives. They want the twins alive and unharmed. As they crested a hill overlooking the lake, smoke rose from the direction of the cabin. Nathan pulled off onto a concealed service path, cutting the engine. We proceed on foot, he decided. Less predictable. From their elevated position, they observed the situation below. The cabin remained intact, but a vehicle burned nearby. Tactical diversionary fire. 2 black SUVs were parked strategically, with figures in tactical gear maintaining a perimeter. Nathan's secure phone vibrated with Vanessa's message. Secondary. Bunker activated. Packages secure. 2 hostiles down. Need extraction. They made it to the underground shelter, Nathan explained, relief evident in his voice. Vanessa implemented the emergency protocol before they breached the cabin. Where exactly is this shelter? Garrett asked. 50 yards from the main structure, accessible only through the boathouse, Nathan replied, already calculating their approach. Reinforced concrete with independent systems. Nathan retrieved a metal case containing specialized communications devices and tactical equipment. These are encrypted comms they can't trace. I'll create a diversion on the east side. Rachel, approach from the west directly to the boathouse when they're distracted. Garrett, remain here as our eyes above. What kind of diversion? Rachel asked. Nathan removed a small device from the kit. Remote-activated EMP generator. It'll disable their communications and equipment within 30 yards. They'll send operatives to investigate. The precision of his planning reminded Rachel that beneath the billionaire exterior was a man with specialized training. Former special forces, she murmured. not just for show. 4 years, Operational Detachment Alpha, Nathan confirmed without elaboration. I'll signal when the diversion is active. We'll have maybe 3 minutes before they reorganize. They synchronized their communications and separated. Nathan circled wide to approach from the east, while Rachel took a more direct path toward the boathouse. Garrett provided updates through their secure channel. 2 operatives searching the cabin interior, 2 maintaining perimeter, 2 others using ground-penetrating radar near the main structure. From his position, Nathan reported, "Diversion active in 50 seconds. Rachel, status?" "In position," she confirmed. "Ready to move." "Garrett, any changes?" "Vehicle approaching from the access road. Black sedan, government plates." "Proceed as planned," Nathan decided. "We moved during the initial confusion." The EMP detonated with a subtle electronic whine. The operatives' communications died, their equipment failed, and the nearest SUV's lights flickered out. 2 figures immediately moved to investigate. "Now," Nathan instructed, already moving. Rachel sprinted toward the boathouse, while Nathan triggered flashbang devices from his tactical kit to add to the confusion. A woman emerged from the approaching sedan, tall, distinguished, with silver-streaked, dark hair and commanding presence. "Director Vance," Garrett identified through the comm. "She rarely appears in the field. This operation must be critical." Nathan watched as she took command, reorganizing her disoriented team. Her composure matched his image of the person responsible for Allison's death, calculating, utterly convinced of her own righteousness. "Rachel's status," he whispered. "At the boathouse," she responded. "Accessing the shelter now." Through his scope, Nathan saw Vance pointing toward the boathouse with sudden urgency. "Rachel, you've been spotted," Nathan warned. "Accelerate extraction. I'll intercept." Nathan moved to intercept the 3 operatives, heading toward the boathouse, activating a smoke grenade to provide visual cover. He neutralized the first operative with a precision strike to the base of the skull. The second turned, but Nathan was already in motion, sweeping the man's legs and rendering him unconscious. The third proved more challenging, larger, better trained. They exchanged strikes, Nathan absorbing a blow to his ribs before gaining leverage and forcing his opponent down. "Nathan, we've accessed the shelter," Rachel reported. "Vanessa is injured but mobile. The twins are safe. Suppressant still active." "Proceed to extraction point Bravo," Nathan instructed. "I'll rendezvous in 3 minutes." As he moved toward the boathouse, Nathan spotted Director Vance through the dissipating smoke, standing calmly in his path. "Mr. Sterling," she called, "I believe we have matters to discuss regarding your wife's research." "Nathan, don't engage," Garrett urged through the comm. "She's stalling. Backup is 3 minutes out." Logic dictated immediate withdrawal, but rage threatened to override Nathan's judgment. This woman had ordered Allison's death. "You authorized the trigger compound," Nathan stated coldly. "You gave my wife cancer to silence her." Vance's expression remained impassive. "Regrettable but necessary. She was connecting dots that threatened national security." "By national security, you mean your illegal human experimentation program. Project Resonance has implications beyond your comprehension, Mr. Sterling. Those children represent the next evolution in human intelligence, a capability that could ensure American dominance for generations." Vance took a step forward. "Your wife's contribution was invaluable, if unwitting." "Her contribution was stolen," Nathan corrected harshly, "and she was murdered when she got too close to the truth." Vance's eyes narrowed. "Yet here you are, making the same mistake. History repeats itself, Mr. Sterling." "Nathan, extraction team in position," Rachel interrupted. "Twins and Vanessa secure. We need to move now." "You won't find them," Nathan told Vance, "and when we expose what you've done, Project Resonance will be your downfall, not your legacy." A slight smile crossed Vance's face. Bold words from a man, with significant vulnerabilities. Your brother Daniel, your company. Are you prepared to sacrifice everything as your wife unknowingly did? The sound of helicopter rotors became audible in the distance. The confrontation had reached its time limit. "This isn't over," Nathan promised, backing toward the forest. "No," Vance agreed calmly. "It's merely beginning. The final phase cannot be stopped. The alignment will proceed with or without your cooperation." Nathan retreated into the forest, then moved swiftly toward Extraction Point Bravo. At the secondary location, he found Rachel with the twins, who appeared dazed but unharmed. Vanessa sat nearby as a medic treated her shoulder. "6 hostiles," she reported. "2 neutralized before we reached the shelter." Their focus was acquiring the twins, not elimination. As the helicopter descended, Nathan studied the twins' faces, those eyes so like Allison's. They had been created without consent, developed as experimental subjects, hunted for most of their lives. Yet in them, something of Allison lived on. The confrontation with Vance had crystallized Nathan's resolve. This was no longer just about uncovering the truth of Allison's death or the twins' origin. It had become a mission to dismantle the entire corrupt program that had violated so many lives in the name of national security. As they boarded the helicopter, Nathan knew they were entering the most dangerous phase yet: direct opposition to a classified government program with seemingly unlimited resources. But for the first time, they had begun to assemble the allies and evidence needed to fight back. The final phase, whatever it entailed, could not be allowed to proceed. 6 months later, Nathan stood at the edge of his family's private cemetery, plot, watching as Mason and Ethan carefully arranged fresh flowers on Allison's grave. The autumn wind rustled through the trees, echoing that fateful day when he'd first heard them playing Clair de Lune in the chapel. "Do you think she would have liked us?" Ethan asked quietly, adjusting a white lily. "Without question," Nathan replied, his throat tightening with emotion. "She would have been extraordinarily proud of you both." The boys had flourished in the months since the exposure of Project Resonance. With proper medical treatment and careful neural rebalancing under Dr. Garrett's supervision, their enhanced abilities had stabilized. They could maintain their unique connection without the painful neural strain or vulnerability to outside tracking. "Nathan?" Rachel approached from the pathway, her expression softer than he'd ever seen during their early encounters. The months of working together to bring down Project Resonance had transformed their cautious alliance into something deeper, a partnership forged through shared purpose and mutual respect. "The car's ready whenever you are," she said. "Daniel just called. The committee is assembled." Nathan nodded, turning to the twins. "Ready for the next chapter?" They rose in unison, their movements still synchronized, but now by choice rather than compulsion. "Ready," they confirmed together. The drive to Washington, D.C. took them past autumn-painted landscapes, a stark contrast to their frantic escape 6 months earlier. Nathan found himself reflecting on the extraordinary journey that had led them here, from a chance encounter at a cemetery to congressional hearings on classified genetic experimentation. The evidence they had assembled had proven irrefutable. Dr. Garrett's documentation, combined with Rachel's first-hand testimony and the genetic evidence from the twins, had sparked the largest intelligence oversight investigation in decades. Director Vance had been indicted on multiple federal charges. Thomas Kiernan faced prosecution for medical malpractice and conspiracy. The remaining subjects from Project Resonance had been located and provided appropriate medical care, though the neural damage some had sustained proved irreversible. "Nervous?" Rachel asked Nathan as they approached the Capitol building. "No," he answered truthfully. "This testimony completes what we started, what Allison would have wanted. The Senate Intelligence Committee hearing room was already filled with press and spectators when they arrived. Senator Harriet Michaels, the committee chairwoman, acknowledged Nathan with a respectful nod as he took his seat at the witness table. "Mr. Sterling, thank you for appearing today," Senator Michaels began, once the proceedings were called to order. "Your previous testimony regarding Project Resonance has been instrumental in our investigation. Today, we hope to address the final aspects of this disturbing chapter in our intelligence operations." Nathan leaned toward the microphone. "Thank you, Madam Chairwoman. I'm prepared to answer any questions the committee may have." "You've submitted documentation indicating that your late wife's research was appropriated without her knowledge by the Holloway Institute. Can you elaborate on how you discovered this connection?" Nathan glanced briefly at Mason and Ethan, seated with Rachel in the front row of the gallery. "My journey began 6 months ago when I encountered 2 remarkable boys playing my late wife's favorite piano piece. Their eyes, identical to Allison's, led me to question coincidences I might otherwise have dismissed." As the hearing proceeded, Nathan provided detailed testimony about the investigation that had uncovered the truth, carefully omitting certain operational details that might compromise security or privacy. When questioned about his father's initial involvement with the Holloway Institute, Nathan spoke candidly. "My father believed he was funding legitimate genetic research with medical applications. When the military aspect emerged, he withdrew his support. Unfortunately, by then, the project had secured alternative funding channels through classified budgets." Senator Michaels nodded solemnly. "And the current status of the subjects created through this program?" "All surviving subjects have been provided appropriate medical care and legal protection," Nathan confirmed. "The Allison Sterling Foundation has established a trust to ensure their ongoing support and education. These children deserve the opportunity to define their own futures, free from the purpose for which they were created." The hearing continued for several hours, with Nathan fielding questions about Sentinel Technologies' new ethical oversight board and the safeguards implemented to prevent similar abuses of research. Finally, Senator Michaels brought the session to a close. "Mr. Sterling, your actions have exposed serious ethical violations within our intelligence apparatus. While national security remains paramount, this committee agrees that the methods employed by Project Resonance crossed fundamental moral boundaries. We thank you for your courage in bringing this matter to light." Outside the Capitol, journalists clamored for statements, but Nathan guided Rachel and the twins toward their waiting vehicle, Daniel providing interference with practiced efficiency. "That's the last of the formal hearings," Daniel confirmed, once they were safely inside. "The classified depositions are complete as well. It's officially over." Nathan exhaled slowly, feeling a weight lift that he'd carried since discovering the truth about Allison's death. "Not over," he corrected gently, "just changing form." Later that evening, they gathered at Nathan's Georgetown townhouse, a temporary residence during the investigation. The twins were playing chess in the living room, their moves flowing with the intuitive understanding that remained their unique gift. Rachel found Nathan on the balcony, watching the sunset over the capital city. "The adoption papers came through," she said, joining him at the railing. "The judge expedited the process given the circumstances." Nathan nodded, a complex emotion coursing through him. "Mason and Ethan Sterling," he said softly. "Allison would approve of them carrying her name and yours," Rachel added. "You've become more than their protector, Nathan. You're their father in every way that matters." They stood in comfortable silence, watching the city lights begin to twinkle in the gathering dusk. What had begun as a desperate search for answers had transformed into something neither could have anticipated, a family forged through extraordinary circumstances. The lake house renovations will be finished next month, Nathan said after a moment. Privacy, security, and enough space for two energetic boys to grow up normally, or as normally as possible, given their unique abilities. And your company, Rachel asked, will you be commuting from the lake? Nathan smiled slightly. Daniel's doing an excellent job as acting CEO. I'm considering making it permanent, focusing on the foundation instead, expanding Allison's work on music therapy and neural development, using her research the way she intended. From inside came the sound of piano music, the twins playing a duet of Clair de Lune, their synchronized movements creating a performance of unusual beauty and depth. Nathan and Rachel moved to the doorway, watching silently as the boys' fingers danced across the keys, their expressions serene and focused. In that moment, Nathan could almost feel Allison's presence, not in grief or loss, but in the living legacy of her genetic gift, expressed through these extraordinary children who would now carry her name and continue her passion for music. Life had taken an unimaginable turn from that rainy day in the cemetery. What had begun with a melody and a mystery had evolved into a new family, a renewed purpose, and the opportunity to right profound wrongs. "What happens next?" Rachel asked softly, her hand finding his in the shadows. Nathan watched as the twins concluded their performance, turning to each other with identical expressions of satisfaction. Despite everything they had endured, they had retained their capacity for joy, for connection, for music. "We build something new," he answered simply. "Together." As if hearing his words, the twins looked up simultaneously, offering matching smiles that reached their remarkable eyes, Allison's eyes, now filled with the security of belonging rather than the wariness of being hunted. For the first time since losing Allison, Nathan felt the future opening before him with possibility rather than obligation. The truth had been uncovered, justice had been served, and from the ashes of deception and loss, an unexpected family had emerged. The autumn wind whispered through the open balcony doors, carrying the final notes of Clair de Lune into the night. No longer a haunting reminder of what was lost, but a beautiful promise of what had been found. Up next, you've got two more standout stories right on your screen. If this one hit the mark, you won't want to pass these up. Just click and check them out. And don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on the notification bell so you don't miss any upload from us.